Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at a profound, undeniable shift happening right now in international football. And we're going to do that by digging into two absolutely stunning recent matchups. For decades, the hierarchy of world football felt pretty much set in stone, right? You had your untouchable giants and, well, you had everyone else. But as we're going to see, that old world order, it's crumbling. We're going to break down exactly how today's underdogs are tearing up the script and bringing the game's biggest titans to their knees. When you have a broadcast calling an upset of this magnitude with that kind of raw emotion, you realize we aren't just talking about a fluke. We're talking about a massive structural shift in how these international matches are actually being contested out on the pitch. Section 1. The Era of the Underdog. We are witnessing a rapid closing of the gap. The days where legacy teams could just step onto the grass, flash their badge, and rely on reputation to intimidate the opposition, yeah, those days are long gone. Today's challengers are hungry, they're tactically incredibly disciplined, and they are highly motivated. In one corner, you have pure royalty, Brazil with their 5 stars, and Portugal boasting absolute global icons like Cristiano Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes. But standing in their way, you have Morocco, stepping up to prove their historic World Cup semifinal run was the new normal, and DR Congo, playing completely fearless, hunting for their very first World Cup point. The contrast in legacy is massive. But legacy doesn't defend against a perfectly executed counterattack. Section 2, Morocco shocks the 5-time champions. Let's set the scene in Tangier. If you wanted to build the perfect environment for a massive upset, well, this was it. We are talking about an absolutely exuberant atmosphere. 65,000 predominantly Moroccan supporters packing the stadium, creating a wall of sound. Brazil wasn't just playing 11 guys, they were playing an entire nation riding a wave of unprecedented momentum. And that aggressive mentality paid off beautifully. Hakim Ziyech makes a really positive, driving run forward, putting the Brazilian defense immediately on the back foot. A quick exchange and the ball finds Sofiane Boufal. Instead of hesitating against world-class defenders, Boufal just executes a perfect swivel and strikes it low. He completely wrong-foots the goalkeeper, sending that crowd into an absolute frenzy. Morocco took the lead, and honestly, they took complete control of the narrative. The momentum of this match swung wildly, dictated almost entirely by massive errors on both ends of the pitch. After Boufal's opening strike, Brazil did actually find a lifeline in the second half, but it wasn't some moment of brilliant Brazilian magic. It was a pretty horrible error by Moroccan goalkeeper Yassine Bouna that handed Casemiro an equalizer. But here's the thing, Morocco didn't fold. Late in the second half, Brazil completely failed to deal with a cross into the box, and Abdelrahman Sabiri stepped right up to punish them, firing in the winner to make it 2-1. Moving to Section 3, Brazil's costly defensive disarray. So why exactly did the 5-time champions fall? It's one thing to get beaten by a spectacular world-class goal. It's another thing entirely to practically hand the opposition the keys to your net. Brazil's performance at the back was characterized by sheer panic and sloppiness, completely uncharacteristic for a team of their stature. The commentators nailed it, pointing out the poor touch and noting how they never really got out of trouble. That's the anatomy of a defensive collapse right there. The pressure from Morocco forced an unforced error from Roger Reben, and the ensuing chaos ended with their keeper caught totally flat-footed. Think about how this actually played out on the pitch. It was a textbook example of cascading defensive failures. First, you have Ibanez giving away possession deep in a highly dangerous area. Then, instead of calmly resetting, the entire defense scrambles and flat-out fails to clear their lines. Because they're frantic, they totally bite on Boufal's turn. And this wasn't just an isolated first-half incident. Late in the game, when they desperately needed to be tight, they failed to clear a simple cross, allowing Sabiri to easily score the winner. That sequence of sloppy mix-ups and lack of anticipation, it simply doesn't cut it at the international level. Section 4. DR Congo's historic World Cup. Now, let's shift our focus over to Houston, where we saw another titan on the ropes, Portugal facing off against a relentlessly energetic DR Congo side. If Morocco was riding a wave of recent success, DR Congo was fueled by the pure desperation of making history. And they brought a level of defensive grit and counterattacking speed that Portugal was entirely unprepared for. The match started exactly how the pundits predicted, right? Portugal strikes early, putting the underdog on the back foot. But DR Congo is not a team that just crumbles. Remember, this is a squad that conceded just 6 goals during their entire qualifying campaign. They stayed defensively compact, absorbed all that Portuguese pressure, and in first-half stoppage time, Ioane Wissa struck a brilliant equalizer. They proved they were incredibly lethal exactly when it mattered most. 1 point, just a single point. It might not sound like a massive deal to a footballing giant, but for DR Congo, that single point represents history. It was their first goal and their first point ever at a FIFA World Cup, an incredibly hard-earned reward for playing fearless, energetic football against a squad loaded with some of the most expensive talent in the world.
Section 5. Portugal's sloppy defensive lapses. Much like Brazil in Tangier, Portugal's failure to secure a victory wasn't purely about the opponent playing brilliantly. It was heavily rooted in their own defensive frailty. They showed a deeply concerning lack of focus at critical moments. The live broadcast highlighted the harsh analytical truth of the game. Portugal was simply way too loose at the back. When you've got commentators calling out nervy moments and noting how sloppy a team is in front of their own goal, it signals a squad that has completely lost its defensive shape and discipline. They were practically inviting pressure from DR Congo and gifting them the opportunities to strike. So, how did that equalizer actually happen? It started with a short corner routine from DR Congo. The ball moves. But what does the Portuguese defense do? Honestly, they fail to move in relation to the ball's trajectory. They essentially fall asleep. And because of this incredibly static defending, Yohan Wissa is left completely unmarked. He ghosts in at the back post, totally unchallenged, and delivers a perfectly timed snapped header. It's an absolutely devastating punishment for a total lack of defensive awareness from a top-tier team.
Section 6. A shifting football landscape. What we really need to take away from this explainer is that the power dynamics in international football are rapidly, undeniably shifting. We are no longer living in an era where the badge on the jersey dictates the outcome before the whistle even blows. The underdogs have evolved. They are tactically astute, physically relentless, and totally unafraid. Ultimately, historical dominance is being completely neutralized by structural defensive vulnerabilities. For Brazil, it came down to defensive mix-ups and poor touches. For Portugal, it was sloppy marking and allowing unmarked runs. These hungry underdog teams, Morocco and DR Congo, they didn't just get lucky. They were thoroughly prepared and they were ready to brutally exploit the exact moments these established powers lost their focus. It leaves us with a truly fascinating question to ponder. Are the days of international football giants coasting on reputation alone officially over? Because, as these underdogs have just proven on the world stage, if you bring the pressure, if you stay disciplined, and if you force mistakes, absolutely anyone can fall. Thanks so much for joining me as we explored this incredible shift in the beautiful game. Keep your eyes on the pitch, because the era of the underdog, it's really just getting started.